I stood at the altar, my hands trembling as I clutched the bouquet tighter. The room was filled with hushed murmurs, stolen glances, and an air of confusion. I could feel Antonio's cold gaze bore into me. He looked like a man betrayed, not by me but by the woman he loved, my sister Hannah. Hannah, the golden child, the shining star of our family. She had always been the one everyone adored, including Antonio. I had grown up watching their love blossom, suppressing my own feelings for him. How could I compete with her beauty, her charm, her everything? I buried my emotions deep, convincing myself I was content to watch from the sidelines. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. On what should have been their wedding day, Hannah vanished, leaving behind nothing but a note and shattered hearts. And then, in a twist that felt more like a punishment than a gift, Antonio's grandfather decided the wedding must go on, with me as the bride. I didn't say yes out of love, even though I had loved Antonio my whole life. I said yes because I wanted to save my family from humiliation. But deep down, a small, selfish part of me whispered that this was my chance to finally have him. The ceremony was lifeless, a stark contrast to the dreams I had once harbored. Antonio barely glanced at me as we exchanged vows. His words felt hollow and his hand in mine was cold. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, I saw no joy in his eyes, only resignation. That night, I was escorted to Antonio's house. A house that should have been ours, filled with warmth and love. But it was as cold as our relationship. He didn't come home that night. I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at the empty space beside me, wondering what I had done to deserve this. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Antonio was distant, his heart still clinging to the woman who had left him. I tried to make our home warm, tried to make him smile, but my efforts were met with indifference. Every glance, every word felt like a dagger to my heart. One night, Antonio came home drunk. His words were slurred, his steps unsteady, but his pain was clear. He looked at me with a mix of anger and longing, and before I could stop him, he kissed me. It was not tender or loving. It was desperate, a way to numb his own heartache. That night, he took my virginity, leaving me with a mix of pain and hope. I thought perhaps this was the start of something new, but by morning he was back to being cold and distant. I told myself to be patient, that he just needed time. But then after 6 long months, Hannah returned. She walked into our lives with her radiant smile, her laughter filling the house like sunlight. Antonio's spirit seemed to awaken at the sight of her, and I saw the man I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But his smiles weren't for me, they were for her. Hannah apologized for leaving, but I could see she didn't regret it. She spoke of her success, her new life, and the love she had found along the way. And though she congratulated me on my marriage, her words felt hollow. That night, as I lay alone in our bed once more, I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live in the shadow of my sister, in a marriage that felt more like a prison than a partnership. For once in my life, I decided to think about myself. I booked a flight to a country far away, a place where no one knew my name or my pain. As I packed my bags, I found myself hesitating, not because of Antonio but because of the secret I carried within me. I was pregnant. I didn't tell Antonio. He didn't deserve to know, not after everything. This child was mine and I would raise it on my terms. As the plane took off, I looked out the window, a mix of fear and hope swelling in my chest. For the first time in my life, I was free. Free from Hannah's shadow, free from Antonio's indifference. But as I placed a hand on my stomach, I couldn't help but wonder if the past would ever truly let me go.